Hello everybody, this is Mark. Today I want to talk about shooting close-up macro shots with your Sony RX10 Mark IV camera. We're in the summer months now and soon to be moving into the autumn months where a lot of insects are out, the flowers are changing, the mood is changing, and a lot of us are going to want to get out and shoot close-up and macro shots of the various different types of insects and things that are out and about now. And I want to just talk about a few different ways that you can actually shoot those close-ups and macro with the camera, and talk about one way that I recommend that you don't use, especially if you're out in the field. The way I recommend that you don't use is to use the built-in default macro that's built within the menu system on the Sony RX10 Mark IV. That macro mode is really built for filming something that's static, not moving, dead insects possibly, or flowers on your table in your house, or coins, or something, jewelry or something like that, that you just want to showcase or take a photograph of. That macro mode will work fine inside your house for something like that. But out in the field, the default macro mode built into the camera is extremely difficult to work with. And the reason is that default macro mode that's actually built into this camera requires most times for you to get too close to your subject for it to obtain focus for the shot. And those of us that do shoot insects can tell you most insects don't like you shoving the camera right up in their face like that to take the shots, and they'll fly away or move away or whatever, and you won't be able to get the shot. So I recommend you don't use the default built-in macro mode for the camera. The second best way to take close-up shots macro with the Sony RX10 Mark IV is to just use the camera itself and put it in aperture priority or shutter priority or programmable mode, whichever of those modes that you want to use. Make sure you have the focus method set on autofocus. I put it on autofocus single. And then what you do is you just find the subject that you want to focus in on. I put mine on spot focus. And you find the subject that you want to focus in on, and you just zoom the camera out to full 600 millimeter zoom, and then back it off a little bit, 585, 580, and then step back about 2.5 to 3 feet. Compose your shot, find your subject, and then push your shutter halfway to focus, or use your back button focus, and then take the shot. And that works really well to give you really good close-up photos of your subject, depending on how well you've captured it with the focus on the camera before you took the shot. The only thing with that type of close-up / macro photography with the camera is that you're still going to be missing some of the finer details, perhaps in the veins of the wings of bees or something like that, or the hairs or spikes on a fly's or a bee's body or their legs, the veins in dragonflies' wings and stuff like that, the tiny hairs all over a bee or something like that. You won't get those in really great crisp focus if you just use the camera. But you can still get some good shots, close-up shots with the camera doing that, and that is the easiest way for all of you to pursue getting close-ups of your insects if you've never done that before with your camera. But it's simply not the best way to get what would be called true macro with the camera, and that's because the camera lens itself, no matter what you do with it, doesn't basically give you true macro ratio requirement for the camera to meet what the experts would call as true macro. I call it macro, and for me, if I want to call my shot macro, it's macro. It still gives you good quality, it's just not as detailed. You're just not going to get the fine detail and not going to get this crisp, clear image of the subject you're shooting with just the camera at 600 millimeter zoom, standing 2.5, 3 feet away. First of all, you really can't see it. I can't see the veins in a bee's wing from 3 feet away, or the seeds in a dandelion clock from 3 feet away. I can't see any of the detail of any of that. And then the third way to shoot, and the one that I recommend if you're serious about getting into macro, is to put some type of supplemental accessory lens on the front of the lens of your Sony RX10 Mark IV. That can be in the form of a single lens magnification lens, or a dual lens, which is called an achromatic lens. or something like a Raynox clip-on magnification lens for the camera, or Nisi lenses, which are also multiple lens magnification lenses. Those lenses actually push the camera into the area of shooting the required ratio to be called true macro. A single lens magnification lens provides the least quality, and the reason is because it's a single lens, it can cause aberrations around the outside of the photo. Sometimes, depending on the quality of the lens with a single lens, you'll get some color distortion in your shots, and they just don't hold up that well. So if you're going to get lenses, support lenses for the camera, I recommend that you at least get achromatic lenses for the camera, magnification lenses. And the lenses come in different magnification strengths, and that strength is called diopter. And they go from like +2 diopter up to +10, or probably even higher. And a lot of them you can get, like I have +2 diopter and a +3 diopter for my Sony camera. But I can actually screw these together, and now I got +5 diopter if I wanted to screw them together and use them as one, increase my power for magnification. A lot of people use the Raynox DCR 250 lens. I see that all over the place in all of the different photo groups for shooting macro. That is a +8.4 or something like that dioptic power on that lens. And that is, for me, really difficult to work with, because with that kind of magnification on your subject, what happens is the outside of the magnification area of the lens after you take your shot is kind of soft and fuzzy and not necessarily in focus. And the only true focus area of the lens is kind of right in the center of the lens with the DCR 250, or just outside the center of the lens. So with the DCR 250, a lot of people are taking close-ups of an insect's head or something like that. I really don't recommend Raynox 250 if you're just starting out with macro, unless you can hold your hands really, really steady when you're out in the field. Otherwise, it's a really great lens. The Raynox lenses are really good. Nisi is becoming the standard now, and it's the most popular lens, but it's also pretty expensive. Nisi lenses run about $100, $120 for a Nisi lens, but they're really good. The quality is really good, edge to edge, with the Nisi lenses. I just use the achromatic lenses for my camera, and I actually only use a +2 dioptic power. But I get good results, good macro results with the +2 dioptic power, but I had to practice a lot in order to be able to do that. So with these lenses, what you do is you screw those onto the front of your camera, and it just increases your magnification, but allows you to get in closer to your subject than you would be able to get with just the camera with nothing. Because it also breaks that minimal focus distance barrier for your camera, but it also increases the magnification of your subject, and it allows you to get the tiniest little details, like the pixel in a bee's eyes, or a dragonfly's eyes, or a fly's eyes. You can see those little teeny tiny little round pixels in her eyes when you take the photo. You can get the tiniest minute detail of the hairs on a fly going into the hair's body, or the pollen sacs on a bee's hind legs when the bee is gathering your pollen out on the flowers or whatnot. So you get a lot more critical, minute detail in your shots with this camera if you use some type of accessory magnification lens, whether it be a Raynox lens or an achromatic lens like I use, or the clip-on Raynox lenses that a lot of people use. They're clip-on, clip-off, so that's really, really quick. And like I said, right now, Nisi has become a really popular lens. It's more expensive, but it's a really, really good lens. And all you do with these lenses is you just, when you're going out to shoot macro, you just screw them on to the front of your camera like this, and you're pretty much ready to shoot macro. Now, when I shoot macro, I always use a speed light on my hot shoe. Doesn't matter whether it's sunny or cloudy, or doesn't matter what the weather's like. The speed light helps me light up my subject under whatever conditions they may be. It could be really dark, shadowy, where I'm trying to take the shot. So this provides me the extra light that I need when I'm taking my shot to light up the subject above and beneath so that I get good equal lighting and I can see the shaded areas of the insect versus having only the top area lit up by the sun and the whole bottom area of the insect being black. This allows me to light up and highlight the entire insect for taking a shot. Along with the speed light, I use what's called a sock diffuser. Now, some people go out and they buy the fancy diffusers and stuff that cost $120 and over $100 or whatever. And I mean, that's great. If you got that kind of money, you can do that. I paid $4 for this diffuser, and I'll put my macro photos up against anybody who's got one of those $120 diffusers any day of the week. This is just a simple sock diffuser that slips over the top of my high-speed speed light or hot shoe flash. And what this does is it spreads the light out evenly because it captures the light in here and then pushes it out evenly over the subject and gives me really good lighting when I'm out shooting macro, whether it's insects or flowers or whatever I happen to want to shoot. There's a lot of different diffusers like this that you can go out and buy. You can go really, really expensive. You can go really cheap like I did, but you may have to go through a few different types of diffusers until you find the one that you really like. Another really good diffuser that I have is a square box diffuser that also just slips over the front of the camera like this, and then I strap it around on the camera. And this also diffuses the light and gives me really good lighting on my subjects when I'm out in the field taking photos. So those are the different ways that you can shoot macro with this camera. And this method with using this lens, you can still focus with autofocus like this, okay? With your accessory magnification lenses with the camera, you can shoot with autofocus, but it's really not recommended by the makers of those lenses to shoot in autofocus. And the reason is because you have the higher magnification of your subject, if they move just a little bit, the camera may hunt for focus when it's in autofocus. So if you have autofocus, back button focus setup or a single point autofocus setup, it may not hunt. So you can use these with autofocus and you still get really good results even using autofocus with these, but you may not get as many keepers as you get if you use manual focus with focus peaking. I use manual focus with focus peaking, but that's a different subject for a different time. Today I just wanted to go over the different methods of shooting macro with the camera so you know the methods that are available for you, and understand that you can shoot really good close-up photographs with just the camera with no accessory lenses. But if you put on the additional magnification lenses on the front of your camera, you're going to enter into the true world of macro, and you're going to see that you're going to see much more detail of the subjects that you're taking photos of, the hairs on butterflies, bodies, and their wings, the detail in the antenna on butterflies and bees and stuff like that, that you just would not get if you're standing 3 feet away, zoomed at 600 millimeters with just the camera. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I wanted to go over with the camera, is just the different methods of being able to shoot close-up / macro with the Sony RX10 Mark IV. If anybody has any questions about using focus peaking or something like that, which I use with my camera when I'm shooting macro on manual focus mode, feel free to ask and I'll go ahead and answer any questions that somebody may have about that. If you have any questions about shooting macro, go ahead and ask me as well, and I'll answer any questions about shooting macro. Everybody has to develop their own style, but I can always tell you how I do it if you have questions about how to start. All right? That's it. Take care. Good snapping to everybody. I hope you guys have a crazy good season this year with shooting your insects and your macro shots outdoors. Just be careful. It's going to be an extremely hot summer this year, so make sure you're staying hydrated. Carry some water with you, and just be careful. If you feel the heat is too much, just go back in the house. It's not worth it. There's always tomorrow. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.